Well, there were many candidates for today's daily cancellation, but ultimately, when faced with a surplus of potential cancelees, I have to simply go with whichever one I find the most personally annoying. And for that, we turn to Will Ferrell, an actor who, as it happens, and I went back and checked, hasn't starred in a good comedy since 2008 with Step Brothers, but that's not why he's canceled today. He's canceled for this, as The Blaze reports, quote, actor Will Ferrell told a group of mostly women that it's time for them to take over the world when he gave opening remarks for the Women in Entertainment Gala hosted by the outlet The Hollywood Reporter. Ferrell likely earned a spot at the gala because he co-owns a production company focused on female-led television and movie productions called Gloria Sanchez Productions, founded in 2014 as a division of his existing production company. Ferrell went on to plead with actress Kerry Washington to run for president, joking that the gala could start a GoFundMe page to raise money for her campaign. The Anchorman actor noted that Washington would receive the Equity in Entertainment Award in recognition for her work, quote, amplifying the voices of underrepresented communities in the entertainment industry and beyond. It's hard for me to imagine an award that could possibly be more meaningless than the Equity in Entertainment Award. This is an award that would win the award for most meaningless award, which somehow would be a more meaningful award than the Equity in Entertainment Award itself. But also, just for the record, it is, of course, a total misnomer that black people are underrepresented in the entertainment industry. In fact, according to the job site Zippia.com, 13% of professional actors are black, which is precisely in line with the overall black population in the United States. So far from being underrepresented, they are exactly, specifically, correctly represented. But that's not really the point. Yeah, there was a lot of groveling to quote-unquote people of color going on at the Women in Entertainment Gala, but most of the groveling was to women, as you might expect, given the name of the gala. And on that end, here's Will Ferrell.
Forget about the entertainment world. Isn't it just time? Isn't it just time for women to run the planet? I'm not just trying to placate you, I swear. But I don't know what else to do because we, men, we've been running the show since what, 10,000 BC? Something like that. And we're not doing so good. So please, can you guys just take over?
Now, I understand this is mostly just the typical Hollywood girl power shtick. I also realize that this is coming from Will Ferrell, who's not exactly known for his wisdom or insight. Still, it's worth pointing out that everything he said there, which is the kind of thing you hear all the time these days, is absolute nonsense. So let's start at the end. He says that men have been running things since 10,000 BC, and we, quote, haven't been doing so good. Now, it's a bit of a confusing sentence, even leaving aside the poor grammar. When he says we haven't been doing so good, does he mean that things have started to decline recently? Or is he saying that we haven't been doing so good the whole time? Now, if the former, doesn't really make sense because men have never been less in charge than they have been in recent years. So if you think things that have been going poorly recently, as women have increasingly taken charge, it's hard to see how even more women in charge will fix that, but we'll get back to that in a moment. On the other hand, if you're saying that men have been screwing things up the entire time, since 10,000 BC, then I guess I need to know how well you think we should be doing at this point. After all, what have men done since 10,000 BC? Well, nothing really, I guess, except build civilization. Almost every major advancement and achievement in the history of mankind since the dawn of human society itself has been made by a man. Not all of them, but most of them. I mean, most of them that you can name have been achieved by a man. That's just a fact. Things haven't been perfect, of course. We're talking about the whole span of civilization's existence. It's not going to be a smooth sailing the whole time, but mostly through male leadership, we went from mud huts to walking on the moon in a few thousand years. Now, I have nothing to compare it to, neither does Will Ferrell, but I think that's pretty impressive. That's not bad. Is that not good enough for Will Ferrell? Is it not fast enough? Is there any reason at all to think that women, if they were solely in charge, would have done better? Is there any reason to think that humanity's prospects in the future will be improved by getting more women into leadership positions? Well, we don't really have to speculate about that. You know, society is run through institutions, and those institutions have increasingly elevated women to leadership roles over the past several decades. And on Will Ferrell's theory, and on the theory of any feminist or anyone else who's adopted this line, we should be able to look around and see that these institutions have measurably and significantly improved due to the rapid, dramatic rise in female leadership. But do we see that? Have the deliberate, specific efforts to increase the proportion of women in leadership roles actually helped any institution thrive? Can you name a single institution that has been improved by these efforts to put more women into positions of leadership? Now, I posted this question on Twitter yesterday, and predictably, lots of people were very upset at me for asking an uncomfortable question. Even more predictable, lots of people missed the point entirely and started naming individual women who were great leaders, like Queen Isabella and Catherine the Great, who both presided over governments comprised almost entirely of men, by the way, but that's besides the point. I'm not asking whether there have ever been any great individual female leaders in the history of mankind. Of course there have been. I'm certainly not asking whether there have ever been any impressive, wonderful, competent, intelligent women in the world. Obviously, there have been many of those. I should know. I married one of them. But the question is whether any institution has been quantifiably improved by the effort to increase as a percentage the number of women in leadership roles. Perhaps another way of asking this is this: has the deliberate feminization of any institution helped it succeed? Okay, can you look at anything now, after years of trying to get women more involved and into the leadership ranks, and say, wow, that institution is doing way better than it was before? If you can give an example, then give it. But I don't think you can. I don't think anyone can. I think instead we all recognize, even if we don't want to admit it, that every institution or field that you can name has become less effective and less productive and less competent and less impressive as women have been moved up the ranks and leadership has been diversified. Now, this is certainly true of the military, academia, law enforcement, the sciences, medicine, even the film industry. And that's true, most of all, by the way, of the two most important institutions in society, which is the church and the family. The church in this country has fallen apart as it's been feminized, and the institution of the family has done the same as society has insisted that women should be at the head of it. You know, you can't deny that the family is much more female-led today than it ever has been in the history of the world. And you also can't really deny that the family is weaker and more unstable than it's ever been in the history of the world. Correlation does not prove causation, but there's a lot of correlation here across basically every institution in the modern world. Enough to, we might say, seriously call into question the idea that the world can be fixed by putting women in charge of it. And certainly enough to say that Will Ferrell is today canceled. Getting into credit card debt is so easy. Getting out, well, the system is set up so you can't. If you're struggling with credit cards, personal loans, collections, or medical bills, you need to check out PDS Debt. PDS provides a service to match your debt with debt solutions tailored to your financial situation. If you're making payments every month on your debt and balances aren't going down, PDS has solutions for you. Everybody with $10,000 or more in eligible debt qualifies, and there is no minimum credit score required. Bad and fair credit are accepted. You know how much debt can weigh on your shoulders? Don't wait any longer and get in contact with PDS Debt now so you can really have some peace of mind. PDS Debt has customized options for anyone struggling with credit cards, personal loans, collections, or medical bills. They strive to understand your specific scenario and can help provide alternative solutions to becoming debt-free. Save more while paying off your debt in a fraction of the time. Stop waiting and start saving. Get a free debt analysis right now at pdsdebt.com/Walsh. It only takes 30 seconds. That's pdsdebt.com/Walsh today. pdsdebt.com/Walsh. The former porn star Maya Khalifa has gone viral this week with some marriage advice that she offered to her Instagram followers. Now, you wouldn't necessarily expect great marriage advice from somebody like this. The world of cyber prostitutes is not revered for its marital wisdom or any other kind of wisdom. So you're probably thinking, what worthwhile advice could this former porn star possibly have to offer? Well, I can say that life is full of surprises. In general, I mean, but not in this case. The advice is god-awful, just like you'd expect. Here it is.
Oh, we're comparing stats. Baby girl doesn't know that I am Tom Brady at this game. Married at 18, divorced at 21. Second marriage, married at 25, divorced at 28. Third engagement, engaged at 29, ended it at 30, but I kept the ring. I'm still keeping Tom Brady on his toes. We should not be afraid to leave these men. We are not stuck with these people. Marriage is not a sanctimonious thing. It is paperwork. It's something, it's a commitment you make to someone. But if you feel like you're not getting anything from that commitment and you're trying, you gotta go. You gotta go. You have to go. I know it's difficult to fill out paperwork and to make appointments and to do all of these things, but this is your life. Do you want to be stuck with someone? Period.
This is what happens when women try to make sports analogies. Maya apparently doesn't understand that Tom Brady has 7 Super Bowl rings because he was victorious in 7 Super Bowls. He won a lot. That's why he has the rings. But Maya is a loser, a failure. She keeps failing at marriage, and which makes her, if anything, the anti-Tom Brady of the marriage game. In fact, even that gives her too much credit, because, Tom Brady, that would be like, Tom Brady did make it to, it's like if he lost a bunch of Super Bowls or something. But no, she's more of an NFL washout, a draft bust. She's the Jamarcus Russell of marriage. She's the Johnny Manziel of matrimony. This only goes to show why I have put certain parameters in place for anyone who wants to dispense any marriage tips at all. Now, according to my rules, which don't have the force of law behind them, but should, you are not allowed to give any advice on this topic unless you have been married for at least 10 years and you have at least 1 kid. From there, the longer you've been in it and the more kids you have, the more seriously your advice can be taken. Here's one area where trust the experts really does apply, except that the experts don't have to have any academic credentials. Their resumes don't matter. All that matters is that they've actually done the thing and they've experienced the challenges of marriage and family life and they've learned how to navigate them successfully. Taking advice from Maya Khalifa would be like having a driving instructor who's been behind the wheel 3 times and totaled the car all 3 times. Obviously, that would be a bad idea. Now, there's probably not much point in responding point by point to the horrible guidance that Maya is offering to women here. She's correct about one thing, which is that marriage is not a sanctimonious thing, but she's only correct because she's semi-literate, so this was accidental. Marriage is, on the other hand, a sacred thing. It's a covenant. Saying it's just paperwork is like saying that the home you live in is just paperwork. It doesn't make any sense. Yes, you sign some paperwork as part of the process of buying a home, for example, but doesn't mean that the home itself is not paperwork. And you sign paperwork as part of the process of legally binding yourself to your spouse in marriage. But the marriage itself is not a piece of paper. My kids all got birth certificates when they were born, but my kids are not birth certificates. Marriage is the same way. It is a living, breathing, vibrant thing, a union, a commitment, yes. But if, as Maya says, that commitment is null and void the moment you feel that you aren't getting anything out of it, then there's no commitment. This is a mercenary arrangement then. Okay, it's like if you built a roof that collapsed under the weight of a slight drizzle. The whole point of the roof is to shelter you from the elements. If it can't withstand any of the elements, then the roof was a sham to begin with. It may as well have not existed. Most likely, if you feel that you aren't getting anything out of your marriage, especially if you feel this way and you just got married like a week ago or however long it was in Maya's case, it's a very good indication that you're looking for the wrong things. You're expecting the wrong things from it. It's like claiming that your oven is broken because it won't wash your dishes. That's not what an oven is designed to do. The oven isn't broken. Your expectations for the oven are simply insane. For marriage, you cannot expect, as Maya and so many women like her expect, that it'll be some kind of machine that exists to constantly make you personally happy all the time and make your life easier and more fun all the time and keep you entertained and enraptured at all times. This is what the Maya Khalifas of the world expect of marriage. It is indeed what they expect of everything and everyone in life. When the thing does not provide them immediate and superficial happiness on a silver platter whenever they ring the bell, then they declare that the thing must be defective, and they are morally justified in smashing it to pieces no matter who is hurt in the process. Again, these narcissists approach all of life this way, so it's no surprise that they bring this same sense of entitlement into their marriages. And it's even less surprise that this entitlement has the same effect on their marriages that it does on all other aspects and areas of their life, by making them and everyone around them miserable, and ensuring that they will fail at everything that they half-heartedly attempt to do. Marriage is supposed to be a deep source of fulfillment and purpose and joy, but like any other worthwhile thing, it requires work and sacrifice. You have to dig deep into the earth to find diamonds. There's no use complaining that they don't fall out of the sky. Besides, if they did, we'd all be killed anyway. The good and beautiful things in life require work, and it's just as simple as that. You have to dig for them. In the context of marriage, the digging doesn't need to be backbreaking or terribly strenuous. It's not like marriage is constant drudgery with moments of happiness thrown in. That's not the point. Most of the work is just like living your everyday life and meeting the normal types of challenges that come your way. The kinds of challenges that you would have to face if you were alone, only now you have somebody by your side. So in many cases, life challenges can be quite a bit easier when you're married for this reason. But you cannot expect that the other person lives simply to make you happy every second of the day, as if they have no life or identity of their own, and as if the marriage is your plaything which exists for your personal entertainment. It is virtually guaranteed that this is the attitude a person brought into marriage if they get divorced a year later or 2 years later. Like, we know this is someone who didn't want a spouse. She wanted a video game character that she could control for her amusement. I think the real thing to be learned from Maya's video, if anything at all can be learned from it, is that this is why so many young men are terrified to get married. They have a deep and certainly not entirely unjustified fear that they'll end up in a marriage with a woman like Maya Khalifa. The young man who's afraid of marriage is afraid of it because he doesn't want to give his heart and his life to a woman who then treats this sacred union like a piece of paper that she can throw in the shredder the moment that she feels a little bit bored. Given that the majority of divorces are initiated by women and that very often their reasons are intensely selfish like this fear is understandable. Maya Khalifa is obviously a terrible person, an awful woman, a sociopath who professes her love to a man only to casually stab him in the back and treat their vows like a joke. And she is far from the only woman of this type lurking out there. And this is a source of great anxiety for young men who otherwise long to become husbands and fathers. Frankly, it should be a source of worry for them. But here's the good news. Here's the good news. These types of women, if you're a man, if you're a young man, you gotta just trust me on this. These types of women are easy to spot, okay? You can see the Maya Khalifas of the world from a mile away. And I don't just mean because she's a porn star. I mean a shallow, selfish woman who is concerned for no one's happiness but her own is very obvious most of the time. You should be able to pick up on this in one conversation, let alone a date. If you get a whole date with someone and you're talking to them for, a couple hours, you should be able to tell all this real quickly. It is very unlikely that an awful, self-centered bimbo narcissist will be able to present herself as some kind of high-character woman. Much less will she be able to keep up the act through the entire process of dating and engagement. Now, there are a few masters of disguise out there, but most of them wear their awfulness on their sleeve because it's the only way they know how to be. And they also aren't aware of how awful they are, so they don't know that they should hide it. So then how do men end up with these kinds of women? How did 3 different men propose to Maya Khalifa? Well, that's no mystery either. They become enamored with other aspects of the woman. They allow those other aspects to overshadow the glaring character defects that they definitely do see, and they go out and they buy the ring against their better judgment. So use better judgment. There are plenty of good women in the world, just as there are plenty of good men. If you see a Maya Khalifa walking around out there, just keep going. Keep searching. She's not worth the trouble. Not even close. And that is why Maya Khalifa, and frankly the men who were dumb enough to propose to her, are all today canceled.